We're going to use ChatGPT to evaluate some capital expenditures. Two frequent measures used are the internal rate of return as well as net present value. In this case, we're going to do internal rate of return. So we're going to start off just by selecting new chat and starting our analysis. We could also just type in start a new chat. This particular lab, we're focusing on internal rate of return. We're going to give the cash flows that might occur. And so we want to know the internal rate of return if our initial investment or year zero cash outflow is $50,000 and years 1 through 7 cash inflow is $10,000. Now obviously we could change any of these, but this is going to be our base case. So let's go ahead and hit enter and ask it to compute the internal rate of return. So here we're solving for R here. R is going to give us the rate of the return. This is what we started investing, and then $10,000 per year for each of 7 years, and our IRR is real close to 9%. We could ask for more definition. It's real close to 9.2%, but this works for our purposes. And so we want to ask, hey, what happens if these things vary? So a lot of times we like to say, hey, this is exactly what they're going to get, and but these things require a lot of assumptions of how much it's going to cost to start, what the yearly return is going to be, and would we continue to invest if we were at the low end or the high end of all of these. So we're going to look, see if it varies from 40 to 90,000. Remember, we started at 50,000, so we're kind of looking around that, and we want it to be evaluated each every $10,000. And then the year 1 through 7 cash inflows vary between 8,000 and 20,000. So we want to ask the internal rate of return. So we hit enter and see what it looks like. And we would like to call this a sensitivity analysis. Sensitivity analysis is an example of prescriptive analytics because it says, hey, what happens if we vary the assumptions? Would we still invest? Should we invest? Should we not invest? And kind of looking at that. So this looks at the various combinations, and we can see what these combinations look like. Notice in first case it's negative 40,000, then negative 50,000, and the annual cash inflow. So this looks at all the possible combinations. You can kind of see that they go on and on. And then the far right would be the percentage expected return. And so we're able to see that. Now, we actually do want to plot this as a heat map so we can see what it looks like. So let's go ahead and ask it to provide that as a heat map. That allows us to see in one picture kind of what all of these look like based on varying levels of cash outflows and varying levels of cash inflows, and see what the return would be. So the question is, if it's really expensive and doesn't return much, on an annual basis as far as cash flows, would we still invest? So here's the output and what it looks like, and you can see what the heat map looks like. And so this is in percent IRR, and you kind of look at this and say, hey, if the annual cash inflow is very high and the initial investment is very low, it looks like it's going to return about 40%. Now I can ask it to go ahead and provide those labels, or I could go back up here and see what those labels might look like to get something a little more specific there. And I may need to do that in order to answer the various questions that I have. But that provides us with a start at least. And now we're going to ask for it to share the story or report the results. And so we're going to go ahead and ask it to provide the heat map as a PNG file. And then we can ask it to download that. Now I could go right here on this and just download it directly, but I found that it doesn't provide anything that's very descriptive. It'll just say output and be done. And I don't like that as much. And so we're going to ask it to produce a file. So here's the file being provided, and we can click on that and we can go and see that hopefully it is just downloading, and so we can see that there, and it'll be in the downloads folder and provide it there. We can also, I like to ask for the prompts so we can see what we were, kind of what the base case was, what it looked like, and ask it to provide that in a Word file. And again, that will output, and I can click on it and it will show up as an output file. So here is the output file, and it will just show up ultimately here as the file name we gave it. So that completes this lab.